Welcome. In this video, I will be giving you an in-depth look at my complete product management system inside of Notion. This is an all-in-one system that tracks all of the user stories, the projects, the epics, the sprints, the OKR, and basically organizes both product delivery and product discovery in one place. By the way, I'm Jonathan, lead product manager in French startups. Product is hard, 1,000 tools, many stakeholders, information everywhere. Nobody knows where to find it. Notion is a game changer, finally a tool to rule them all. Now the whole company has access to everything, but without a strong structure it gets messy and fast. After a couple of years iterating on this, I finally built the perfect workspace, the one that aligns everyone, allows easy customization, organizes the mess. Hundreds of companies are using it. And before we dive in, I will also mention that I've turned this entire system into a template, so if you want a complete done-for-you system that you can simply add to your Notion workspace and start using right away. The template is called Product OS and you can actually get it over at productosnotion.com. I'll have more information about that at the end of the video, but for now, let's actually dive in because I'm gonna show you every single part of this system, so in case you wanna build it yourself, you can using what you see here as inspiration. So let's dig into this. Before seeing all the dashboards, let's take a look at the big picture. This is the Great Cascade, a way to visualize the full state-of-the-art product management process. Here's the product discovery, where you'll figure out what to build. And here's the product delivery, where you'll actually build it. This part replaces your standard Jira, by the way. So first, the product discovery. All the context, ambition and vision start with the company objectives and key results. It helps your chief product officer to build your team objectives and key results. Problems, ideas and opportunities are coming to the product manager from everywhere in the company. Thanks to the OKR, the PM will decide which user problem we will solve, which idea we will test and fine-tune, and which opportunity will follow. We enter the solution space where we'll design and test our features. When we're ready, we split the solution in tickets, and that's what our developers will work on during sprints. Each of these concepts, OKR, epics, problems, tickets and sprints, have their own database and dashboard. My favorite part of Notion is how it is easy to link databases, because it gives all the context we need. Let's take a very common situation. If I'm a developer who is working on a new feature, I go to my current sprint and open a ticket related to this feature. This is about the building the backend for a new translation engine. I want to understand everything about the epic which this ticket is a part of. Here it's the first part of the Translate Everything epic. Now I can see what problems this epic is solving. Here it's about foreigners using our product. And finally how my small chunk of work takes place in the whole company's strategy by going to the top OKR. What I've done really is climbing up the cascade. And another example, if I'm a C-level director who needs to see how my strategy is performing in practice, I can go down from the OKR, see the details of all the epics we are building and what tickets has been developed and released to the world. I think this is what makes Notion the best tool for product managers, because it removes silos so information can flow between teams without barriers. For me, it's the opposite of Jira, which is like a developer's dungeon as no one from the company can access except for tech team. This page is the only page that you need to bookmark. You can even close the sidebar. That will be the entry point for everything else. At the top, the links that lead to the other dashboards and the Chrome bookmarks. The idea is to have all your bookmarks in the same place so that it is not hidden in the browsers of the members of your team and that you can have all of them in the same place and shared with everyone. And on this page, what can be interesting is to pin the page at the top of your browser as a tab so that you can access it very simply with the keyboard shortcut Command+1. And below the links, the metrics. So this is a data studio, which is a very good free software from Google. It can be filled with live data from Google Analytics, Google Sheets, BigQuery, or many other sources. There are a lot of tools that are possible to integrate here, for example Deep Notes, and you can put a link to access the full version below. Under the links and the metrics, the current work. The current work cascades from at the top the OKRs, objectives and key results, then the problems, then the solutions, then the tickets, the user stories. So first of all, the OKRs. Here are the OKRs in a summary so that we can see for each one if we are in track and how far we have progressed. Also, it's very good to have them here, since one of the causes of OKR failure is often that we forget to look at them after having set them at the beginning of the quarter. The idea is to have them under your eyes very simply. Here we can have a selection of all the problems that are either in progress or on which a solution is in the process of a construction, and then the solutions in progress, the epics, on which we are creating the design or writing the user stories, or those more generally that are in the process of development. Then the experiments, for example, all the A/B tests that are live. And finally, the tickets, the user stories, which are building or testing. And below, the summary of your team, your Slack channel, the purpose of this team, the people in charge, and the name of the team. It can be very interesting for the rest of the company to have an idea on how to interact with this team from this summary. And at the very bottom of the page, there are the databases and the dashboards. So that's a bit of the back office. You don't have to go there on a daily basis. So this is the home page, and it allows you to have all the information in one click, very easy to access, and it's the entry point of your workspace. Here is the OKR dashboard for objectives and key results. Objectives that we can see here must be between 2 and 4 to stay focused, and they generally come from the OKR of the company. And the deep analysis of the data, of the user research, of industry, and emerging technologies. On the side, I have put some tips on how to organize these OKRs, as well as a huge database of 200 examples, which allows you to have an idea of what the right formats are, the best practices, and how to implement these OKRs. If we go down, we can see a progress level. This progress level is linked to this objective one. It is directly connected to the progression of the corresponding key result and is updated automatically. Here we can see the first day of the quarter, which is reflected here, the team corresponding to this OKR, and finally, the key results corresponding to a given objective. For example, if we take this objective, we can also see that it comes with a template that allows us to specify the rationale on why this objective was chosen and how it was built. On the key results part, we have the level of progress as well as the way to track if we are on the right track to reach the 100%, or if, on the contrary, we are late or downright not on the right track to get there. This can help to keep an eye on teams that are a bit behind, and it also allows us to know if the objectives were not too ambitious from the start. Typically, the moment we will want to update this will be during the one-on-one meetings between the managers and their teams. Here is the dashboard of problems, ideas, and opportunities. It will be the fuel of your team, which will then feed the solutions that will be built. Everyone can submit a problem. Most of the time it will be via user research, the results of customer success, or feedback from your sales team or the investigation from the data teams. But everyone can be a witness and can bring up problems. The problem can be of two kinds. Either external problems, for example, problems related to your users who do not understand something of your application, or internal problems, typically problems related to how you work. For example, your test session that takes too long, or other things like this. The product manager of the team will decide which problem will be treated thanks to the OKR, which will allow to filter on what will be worth solving or not. Also, we should not treat too many problems in the same time to keep a certain focus. Ideas are solutions seedlings. They are solutions oriented, but they are not yet refined enough to be taken on by your technical teams. Everyone can submit an idea for a solution. And so when you submit an idea, you have to remember to indicate what is the underlying problem that this idea will come to solve. The product manager will be able to decide which idea is worth digging into and refining by relying on the OKR. The table is like a Kanban with columns that represent the list of all the problems to be dug at a given moment. You can increase the number of upvotes so that the problem that is the biggest pain for the team will be higher in the list. And so for each of these problems we have a source, who found this problem, which team, where it comes from, what status it has, the date of creation, the team, and the experiments related to this problem. The problem-solving template allows you to dig deeper, so it will be easier to solve. So this table allows you to manage on your discovery work. And this is the experiment dashboard. This is where we will list everything we are doing to test our solutions. The A/B tests, the beta tests, the user tests. For example, I'm testing this right now. If we go into the details of this test, we will see the start and end date of the test, how much it is a priority, its status, the team, the type of the test, the solution with which it is connected, the problem with which the test is connected, and finally a template that shows how to write an A/B test summary. The detail, the mockups, the question the test must solve, and what will allow us to decide if it is a success or not. And finally, the results, indicated scientifically, with the URL to calculators that allow you to determine if the results are statistically significant and if enough people have seen the test to be able to conclude whether or not it is a success. And finally, when the test is over, we can indicate whether it is a success, failure, or if we do not know. Here is the dashboard of solutions. We can see all kinds of solutions, mainly epics, but also initiatives from the CRM or operations team or changes on the customer success side. What is an epic? It is a big topic in terms of time or impact. On average, we estimate that we can produce between 1 and 3 per month per team. And if it's too big, we can split them in multiple sub-epics. Each one must be independent. Let's take a look at the columns. The first one is the topic to start with, based on the OKR. So the epics are solutions that come to answer the problems that have been identified and that are part of the company's strategy. The conception column is the one on which the product managers are supposed to spend most of their time by experimenting, by testing, by working with design team. The building column is the column in which the developers take over and develop the tickets corresponding to this solution. And finally, the released column is when the epics are finally in production, where the solution is finally visible by users. Obviously, this workflow can be modified to follow your company's process. Let's go into the details of an epic. The body of each card is very useful to introduce someone from the outside into this topic or to keep track of why we build the epic. So first we have the status property, which corresponds to the column, the team in charge of this epic, the release dates, the dates on which we will work on it. It can be an estimate and we can refine it until we get to the right dates. The progression % is calculated automatically with the story points of the user stories associated. When a story is tagged as released, it increases the progression according to how big the story was. Next, the release date originally planned, we estimate it rather in the form of quarters. The date of creation, the type of solution, so here it's epic, and the problems or ideas that this epic comes to solve or refine. In the detail of the epic, we will start with why, which is the context. More specifically, it is the list of problems that are connected to this epic. In my example, the problem is that the loading time is too long. The solution is to make it instant. Then the user research documentation corresponding to this topic, the success metrics that will allow us to tell if we have achieved our goal. Next, the who, a list of everyone involved. A quick description of the epic with every mockups, videos and images that will allow developers to understand what it is about. And the tickets corresponding to this epic. So in this case, these tickets are linked to this epic, and if we create one from this bottom, the connection between the ticket and the epic will be automatically made. The RICE estimation is useful to compare epics and see which one have the best return on investment, impact divided by effort, so we can see if it is worth doing it or not. Next is anything that can be useful for developers to understand what it is, to add context, and also to serve as an archive on why and how we made this epic. Then the list of risks we try to identify and mitigate when working on it. It's sometimes called pre-mortem, and it's a great way to avoid failure by forcing ourselves to see everything that can go wrong. And finally, the post-release once the epic is in production. It tells if we are satisfied with the results. We divide the post-release study into 5 parts. Business score, if the success metrics have been achieved in terms of UX. UI, if we are happy, if we didn't create technical debts by putting this in production. If it's easy to maintain, and also if the project management has been well done during the whole time working on it. There is also a roadmap view. On the roadmap view, we can see our epics in the form of a quarter's schedule. So basically, there are the topics that have been released in the past and the topics that will probably arrive in the coming quarters. Roadmaps are a comfortable tool to the management because they provide a view of what each team is building, what will be done next and if we are delayed. They help to communicate with the exec team, clients and the rest of the company. But I don't recommend using them as they are also dangerous. They focus on what we will build instead of what we will achieve. It is possible to deliver all roadmap items and still have no impact. Legendary product coach Marty Kagan says that if he had to choose just one root cause to product failure, it would be roadmaps. You might ask if we can have both OKR and roadmaps. According to Kagan, if you do so, you are doing something wrong as OKRs are an alternative to roadmaps. Here is the backlog, where we will put all our tickets. There are 3 types of tickets: the tasks or user stories, the bugs and the technical debt tasks. With this page that looks a bit like Jira, we can have all our tickets in lists and we can move them to the next sprint with a simple drag and drop. In the task area, you'll see all the tasks that have not been associated with a sprint. For example, the one that have been created directly inside the dashboard of epics. Each ticket that we create in this space follows a template that is set by default. If we click on New, it will directly integrate the ticket templates. It allows uniformization across the whole team. The one I have here allows to have a good base to move forward with the description in the classic format as a user. I would like the visual information, how to test it, what are the success metrics and all the special information that are useful to test or validate this ticket. Of course, you can customize it to your own need. Other lists follow the same logic. We have a template for the bugs tickets which is applied by default. So when we create a bug, it will automatically come with this template. A tech debt tickets too. It prevents people from leaving tickets too empty, for example. And finally, the archives. It is useful if we want to clean up these lists and keep a clean backlog without deleting tickets. In general, I recommend to clean the sublists and update prioritization on a weekly basis, so when you want to create a sprint. All you have to do is take the first elements of each list and create your sprint. It becomes very simple. When we move on to the next sprint, this area will automatically be empty because it works with a filter. This filter will allow us to switch from one sprint to another. So this is the backlog, which allows to have all the tickets in one view. Here is the sprint dashboard. A sprint is between 1 and 3 weeks of development for technical teams in Agile methodology, especially in Scrum. So this is a Scrum dashboard, but it could work very well in a Kanban mode. The only difference would be that instead of having cycles, we would just have the list of tickets in this to start column. So it would work also well in Kanban mode. Before going further, just to clarify to all teams that work on Jira for their tickets or on GitHub or GitLab, it is quite possible to have this interface synchronized with Jira so that when a ticket status changes in Jira, they also change in Notion. This is a feature called synchronized database and it works very well. For example, if your developers are so attached to Jira or GitHub, you can still use Notion with this mode, which allows you to keep the best of both worlds. Now, let's talk about the columns. The first one is for the tickets that are not yet estimated, in the sense that we have not yet assigned them story points. The story point is this unit that will determine the time spent on a task. We can put it here and it will appear here. Once the story points have been assigned, we can move the card in the to start column. The to start column is simply the tickets that are ready to go and in which developers have not yet started development. The developed column is the column in which the developers are working. Testing is where we check if the tickets are good to go on production. Note that it is easy to access the Git branch corresponding to the tickets with a click on this button. And finally, the column released for the tickets that have been put into production. Now you have to keep in mind that this process is completely customizable and it can have the stages that correspond to your process to match your very specific way of working. Here, about the cards themselves, we can see on the card a small tool logo. I use this logo for user stories or tasks, which are the features. A small insect logo for bug fixes tickets. And finally, a wheel logo for technical debt tickets. On the card, we can see which epic this ticket is part of. For example, on this one, we can see that the translation engine is the heart of this sprint, as many of the tickets have this epic tag, such as the management of foreign IBAN. French translation, translation engine, etc. Underneath, we can see the name of the developer who will work on the task. Now, if we go inside one of them, for example this one, if we take the list of properties, we simply have who created it when the reference number of the ticket, which is built in the following way. First, we will have the name of the team, which is taken from this property. And finally, a unique identification. This is a very practical way to identify each task. It is the same format that we can have on Jira. The priority indicates if we have to develop this ticket at the beginning or rather at the end of the sprint. The solution associated with this ticket, here it's the translation engine. The current sprint, which corresponds to the sprint that we can see here. The status, which corresponds to the column. The number of story points, this task is a 3. The type of the ticket, we said that there were tasks, bugs and technical debts. Who is in charge, the name of the team, the Git branch. And finally, a way to indicate if there are dependencies between tasks. For example, in this one, the back task of the translation engine blocks the tasks about the French and German translation. So as long as we have not finished this task, we cannot move forward on these two other ones. And these two tasks, we can see that automatically a red indicator appears to say that we can't start them. If we go inside this ticket, we can see that there are dependencies. It's very useful to take a look at the dependencies and to realize if we should start with this ticket rather than this ticket. We can also access the tasks description template. Here, the classic template with the description as a user I would like to. It's a place where we can visualize the task. Let's go back to the dashboard. We also have two other tabs here. And on the second tab, we can have the view by person, the task list for each member of the team, which they will have to work in his sprint. And the last tab, it is filtered on the person who is looking at the board. So if it's my account, it will automatically check all the labels where I am tagged as the person in charge. This is very handy because it allows to have a unique tab that will change depending on the person who opens it. So this person will only have his own tickets and will be able to focus on his work, and if ever he needs to see the whole board, he'll have to go back to the main view to see every ticket from this current sprint. Below, we have the view of the sprint details, so basically from which date to which date it will take place. And finally the number of story points that have been planned and the total of points released, those in this green column. It gives an idea of the progress the sprint compared to the date. Here we are at 50% of the release, and if we manage to do it, we should be at the middle of the sprint in terms of dates. It gives an idea of whether we are late or not. Now let's see the all sprints dashboard. This dashboard is an overview of all sprints, those that have been closed, the one in progress, and those that will happen after. If we take this one for example, we find our sprint number 2 and its progress level at 50%. We can see the list of all the tickets from this sprint, sorted by type, tasks, bugs, technical debt. We also have a space to add documentation associated with this sprint. Let's go back on the dashboard. To close a sprint, you just need to drag and drop it in the closed column, and drag the pending sprint into the current column. Here we can create the new sprint. It's as simple as that. By doing that, we will update the previous dashboard since it is connected through the filter. Let's take a look at it. We can see that all columns are empty except the first one, which contains all the tickets to estimate. If I come back here, I can return to normal state. Cool. And so we can also have an idea of the progress at a larger scale to see if we manage to finish our sprints over time. It gives a good indicator of the velocity of our sprints to know how many story points we planned and if we can or not finish them. So this is the sprint dashboard. Again, this view also works in Kanban. The only difference would be that we would not need to change the sprint. We would have all our tasks in the current sprint dashboard. So that hopefully is a comprehensive overview of my entire product OS system here in Notion. This is a complete productivity system, and now I can organize my team inside of one Notion system. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, I've also turned this into a template. So if you want a complete done-for-you product management system that you can just add to your workspace and start using, you can get it. It's called Product OS. You can get it over at productosnotion.com. You get more than just the template itself. You also get beginner's guides to get into the product management world, onboarding tutorials, and support if you have questions. I have put a ton of effort into making them as comprehensive and as useful as possible. We have a full tutorial on how to switch from Jira or synchronize your Jira, GitHub or GitLab sprints with Notion. So once again, if you want to get a complete product management system done for you in your Notion ready to use right away, go over to productosnotion.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back very soon with a new video.